Hey everyone, Updog here, and today we got a video for you about getting ready for Season 8 of Crucible with the top 10 plug-and-play characters that are non-mythic, non-legendary. So I'm hoping this will apply to all those players who maybe don't have APOC, don't have Scroll, don't have some of the newer legendaries, or just apply to anyone really. So let's get into it here. So these are in no particular order. And again, non-mythic, non-legendary. So the first one on my list, not necessarily number one, but first one on my list is Vulture. And if we end up having another room where his like an ultimate has less, takes less ability or cost less to use, then his turn one ability is amazing, rewinding everyone. He also has that extra bonus damage per negative effect on his basic. That can hit super hard if you can stack a bunch of negative effects on him. He's super fast speed, 127, but he gets more speed bar if there's heroes on the opposing side. So, and if he doesn't have his ult first turn, which is fine, his special is still really good, putting offense down and slow. So, super good plug and play character. You don't need a full Superior 6 with him, although it's nice to have him with the full Superior 6 if the situation calls for it, but he's still a good plug and play character, especially with like a Cabal or just any, if you need to slow somebody down very early in the match, then he's your guy. Second up is Kang, of course. Now, when I was making this list, I was trying to take into consideration, like, well, Kang's part of an actual team. Also, at the same time, if you're a newer player and you don't have Masters of Evil fully built up, he's still a great plug-and-play character by himself. Like, you can use him with, like, Cabal, or pretty much any team you want. So, you know, he gives the 5% speed to everyone on the team. He gives himself speed up. He just does massive damage. He does have a slow as well, kind of like Vulture we were just talking about. Slow on his opening move, so that's pretty nice. He clears negative effects. He's still amazing. Still great in Crucible. Alright, next up is Quicksilver. And if you don't have a big Quicksilver, you probably think that he's underwhelming. He does, to be like super effective, he does need pretty high stars. I'd say 5 or 6 red stars. So that can be kind of expensive if you're a newer mid-game player to get all of his red stars with dark promotion credits. But if you get him big, he can do a lot of damage, and when paired with the right characters or against the right characters, he can do great things for you. So one of the things is he clears all charges. So that's super important right now for like Black Knight teams. Since Black Knight retaliates if he has charges. If you can take his charges off, then now he won't retaliate, which those retaliations really hurt. So that's a pretty good mechanic for Quicksilver. He rewinds and he slows on his special as well. So that's perfect. If you're going up against a team that does put out a lot of slows, then that's actually good for him, because when he gets a slow, then his speed bar will fill up by 20%. Any character takes a turn, basically. So he'll speed up to get to his next turn if he has a slow. And then his ultimate can just be devastating damage. You can get him to live to his ultimate, then you got a good chance that you're going to win the match. Alright, next on the list is going to be Big Time Spider-Man. Now, there's probably going to be a lot of people that disagree, but he's seen a lot of use in the last couple of seasons, and solely because of 2 things that he does. So, he can clear revive once on his first turn. Clear revive once from 2 different characters, so he attacks the primary target, and then the target who has the highest speed. Not speed bar, speed. Base speed. You gotta look at base speed. So that's been really important for teams with like Dormammu or Infinity Watch or whatever else we may come across. And then his ultimate has been very helpful countering Black Knights. So if you get him big enough, depending on how big the Black Knight is, his ultimate will clear all those positive effects, put the disrupt on Black Knight, and then that's when you can bring in like a Quicksilver or a Nova to stun that Black Knight, and then you can really neutralize him and not have to worry about Black Knight for a little bit. So I know I just did mention Nova, but because this is a non-legendary video, but you can bring somebody else in to stun him, like a Spider Weaver. So there you go. And another cool thing about Big Time Spider-Man is when you do his special, when he's in this anti-sound mode, when he turns red right here, the armor of the enemies gets lowered by 20%. So that is super helpful too. So just something to keep in mind with him. All right, next up is going to be Spider Weaver. Now, I didn't include 2099 because I think his stats are starting to fall off a little bit. He's always been kind of squishy, but still we're seeing a lot of use, even dropping 2099 and still keeping Weaver on a team. So she's still lasting in the meta. And she's an original character, so I don't see her going away anytime soon. But, you know, she does all those great things, of course, like the charges where it'll lower the accuracy by 100% for all the enemies. She has the trauma stun, which is great for Black Knight, like I was talking about with Big Time Spider-Man. She does have the permakills too, so that's why she's a good striker. If you get somebody low and then she striker attacks and can permakill somebody, it's amazing. It's great. So she's also really good against a lot of teams with Gambit too. Like if you're struggling against teams with Gambit, you put Weaver in there, she'll put up those charges and Gambit will hardly touch you. Unless you let him ult, but don't let him ult. So, all right, we're about halfway through the list here for the top 10. And next up is going to be Emma Frost. It's been around a long time, but she's still a great plug and play character to get the speed advantage on, let's say you want to do a mirror or something, or you need just a little bit more of an edge on the speed. You throw her in there, and for 99% of the characters in the game, that'll work. There's a couple of them like Apocalypse or Photon. I can't remember. Feels like there's another one out there. If you know who the other one is, make sure to let me know down in the comments. But I hope they update her stats since they are required, since she will be required for the Old Man Logan trials. So I hope they update her stats at some point soon. Usually, there's been an interesting pattern with trials, legendary events, where we had Sinister 6 required for one of the trials, and then they got the reworks and the new characters added, so maybe we'll see something like that for Emma. But even without the stats, she's still a good plug and play. If you can get her to survive for her ultimate, that's even better, because you're basically using the enemy team's damage against them, so she's great. Alright, next up is Lizard. He goes pretty fast, he's a taunter, and if you see here on his passive, if there's any Spider-Verse enemies, fill character by 40%. Well, why does that matter? I'll show you. Have you seen all the Spider-Verse characters in this game? He can do a lot of things. He can go really fast against a lot of different characters. So, not only does he taunt, he strips off all of the buffs from everybody, you know, assuming they don't have Safeguard. And because of the fact of his Spider-Verse passive. And then also, too, his special is really good, too, which applies ability block to any hero Spider-Verse or support. So there's a lot of key characters who are support in the game, and obviously hero Spider-Verse as well. So that's what makes him a super a top 10 plug-and-play character. Speaking of Spider-Verse characters, here's another one. Got Void Knight. He's on this list because he goes so fast. He does get extra speed on spawn. And his first turn, he can ability block one character. He clumps them all together, and he flips all their buffs. So he also can steal energy, which, if it was stealing 2 energy, it'd be a lot better in Crucible. It's only stealing 1 energy, so it's more like you're kind of stalling characters who they have an important turn 2 move. His special is going to be really good for you. But if they have an important turn 1 move, it's not going to help, because basically what happens is he steals the energy from them. So they will be, let's say the ability will be 3 out of 4 when he steals that energy. Well, when they get a turn, they get that energy back. So they'll still be able to take that super important key move when he does that. So it's not quite as impactful, but it can play a role. And on top of that, he also has a lot of health. Big health pool. So he doesn't do a lot of damage, but he does the control and can just stick around a while. So, alright, next up on the list is going to be Hela. She's been around a long time in Marvel Strike Force. I love that they've added the Undying team, and I love that the devs have told us, Envoys, that they're probably looking at doing a new member for the Undying team every single year. I love that idea. It's gonna keep her in the meta for a long time, probably at least another 3 to 4 years, I'd say. And who knows, by that time we might have Odin. He might have some synergy with her or something. So yeah, she's great, and the reason why is because of good old Undead Asgardian, or as the community likes to call him, Greg. If you don't know the story behind Greg, supposedly that's what he was coded as in the the JSON file. So that's why everybody calls him Greg. And so I think it was some kind of joke between the devs or something. But yeah, basically Greg is the all-star, because if he dies, then the enemy team gets rewound, and Hela can spread all negative effects with her ult. If you get a key ability block on somebody, and she just spreads it to the rest of the enemy team, and everybody's locked down. Now, just her by herself is a great plug-and-play character, but when you start adding in like a zombie Iron Man or a zombie Jugs, then she starts to get even better. But for just her by herself, with Greg being out there rewinding everybody, she makes it a great plug-and-play character to mess around with the enemy's speed and everything. If you do use her, just keep in mind that make sure there's not like a Kestrel out there on the enemy team, because Kestrel will block the Gregs until she loses her charges. But the only way Greg will come back at that point is if Hela revives, and then she'll spawn in a new Greg. Then it'll work, because Kestrel will have lost her charge by then. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, Hela's still great. I feel super confident that she'll be a great plug and play for, like I said, the next 3, maybe 4 years, something like that at least. So the last one we got on the list is Vol. Now, Vol is not a mythic character yet, but is a Marvel Strike Force original character, so I think Vol will continue to be meta relevant. The expose mechanic that Vol has is crazy. Stealing, filling speed bar and stealing 5% health. Super amazing. And if you can pair Vol with other characters that have like AoEs to always hit that exposed, then that's great. Or even pair Vol with a character that adds another exposed too. So with Vol having the ability block on turn 1, it's also really good. And then the revive, if you can get enough energy for Vol to use the ult, then it's great. So another good character. Vol has a really good health pool as well. They're good. Vol's a good striker for that reason, because of the big health pool. So Vol rounds out our top 10. Now we're going to get to honorable mentions here real quick. So Honorable mentions is going to be any kind of huge pre-taunt tank. Of course, Black Knight is one of those, one of the best, or actually I'd say the best pre-taunt tank right now. But, you know, also includes people like Absorbing Man, Bishop, even Drax maybe. If you have them really big, they can take some hits and let the rest of your team do some work. So, okay, another honorable mention is going to be Cable, just because of the fact of his passive, giving 5% speed bar, I believe it is. And as you can see, I don't have him built up very big. He still does his job just fine. It's just enough to get you that extra speed so you can go first and go in there and do what you need to do, control whoever you need to control, or delete who you need to delete. Alright, another honorable mention is going to be Echo, just because of her passive, which cancels out any kind of assists. As long as she's not blinded, she will reduce the assist chance by 100%. So if we got teams like Infinity Watch, Death Seed, Wakandans, things like that, she shuts them down. So that's the only reason why she made the honorable mentions, but it's still a pretty good, powerful mechanic to have in your back pocket. And we couldn't have an honorable mentions list without Thirsty and Icarus. The problem with them not making the top 10 list is that you need both of them to work well. And taking up 2 spots on a 5-man team, sometimes it can get a little crowded. So that's why they are honorable mentions, but definitely worth mentioning. So there you have it. There's the top 10 plus a few of the best plug and play characters for Crucible. Make sure you get ready for Season 8 and check out the Envoy tournament that's going to be happening on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific. I'm looking forward to being in it. I'm hoping I do well. At least win one match would be great, but we will see how it goes. And until the next one, we will catch y'all later.